Hello. Somebody's out there, I think. Good morning. It is Friday. That's the day it is. I actually slept okay last night, which I only mention it because it's like rare and notable. Yeah. So a couple of housekeeping things. I noticed the past two streams, you've been dropping some frames. I thought I fixed that, but that apparently I didn't, because the last stream was dropping frames. The weird part about it was OBS wasn't reporting drop frames, but it was definitely happening on this end because the local recording even had them. So I have a couple of theories about why that was. Hopefully it's fixed. Let me know in chat if you see frames like being dropped in big chunks like they were. It seemed to happen when I was changing scenes a lot. I'm not sure. We'll see. But I have made a couple of changes to how I stream and record at the same time, and also the drive I record to. I think the issue was the drive that I was reporting to was an old spinning mechanical drive, and so that was slowing things down. So now I'm recording to like the main SSD, which is like one of those M2, crazy fast things. So hopefully the local recording won't be dropping frames like it did. And the stream quality looks okay. So I think we're in good shape. So what are we doing today, kids? We are going to finish, hopefully, the Smol. Where we got to last time. I'm going to put down my coffee. Last time I had been hand sewing the skin, and that takes a long time. So I did finish it off camera, but I'll go to here. So here is the skin. This is all finished now. So the only thing I did since the stream last time was I finished these seams and these darts. So this is now like a single, put it on camera, Kevin, a single tube. And I also sewed in the mouth plate, or the fabric mouth plate, that is, the mouth lining. The color of the mouth lining can vary depending on the puppet and the design. The first one I made, that one, that actually had a black inner mouth, and I like that a lot. There's a simplicity to it, right? I don't always put a tongue and uvula in. You don't put a uvula in if it's black anyway, because it's black on black and you wouldn't see it. But if the mouth lining is any color other than black, I usually do put a uvula in. The fabric that is comprised of the mouth lining, you can, like puppet skins, you can make it out of anything that you think will work. The most common, I know a lot of people use felt, and felt is fine for the mouth lining. I don't really like using felt a lot because it wears out really quickly, and it starts to get like fuzzy over time. It's not the best quality fabric in the world. It's great to use for some things. Sometimes for like features, for like eyebrows and things. Yeah, absolutely, go nuts. But I don't really like using felt for a mouth lining. So for preference, there's a siren outside now. I live in the middle of Toronto, so it's a noisy place. It's a city. It's gonna happen. The most common fabrics to use for professional puppets for the inside of the mouth is either velvet or ultra suede. Velvet is great, particularly black, because on camera, it just absorbs light. Like that thing just disappears. That's just a black hole. Ultra suede is also great. Ultra suede is a kind of artificial leather, and it's very tough, and it has a nice kind of texture on it. So when I do red mouth linings, I usually make it out of ultra suede, and that's what this is. It also has zero stretch, so you got to cut real precisely. But that's all this is, and this is just the diameter. I can show on the phone here. This is just, remember this inner line that we did? So there will be a lip, and then that's the inner part of the mouth. This fabric mouth plate is the same diameter as that. That's what we're sewing into. So, or gluing onto. How are we doing over here? One view. Hello, one viewer, whoever you are. If you're lurking, feel free to lurk. I should put that in the title, actually. I know, like, a lot of really obnoxious, Hi, Wackets! Hey, how you doing? Good morning. You watched the VOD, so you're up to speed. Excellent. Good stuff. That is kind of the goal. I want to make, on stream, we want to go from like 0 to finished puppet, right? And to see every step of the way. Like last time, a lot of the time it's going to be hours and hours of hand sewing. So I will probably do some of that off stream, but if so, I'll catch up on the next stream and explain what I did. So the very first thing that we do today, then, these are slides. So this is the tongue and the uvula that's going to go in the mouth, and you see that's kind of where you see that? Yeah, that's where the uvula goes. That's where the tongue goes, and you'll notice this color scheme might look a bit familiar. That's because a certain frog has exactly the same color arrangement. But it's a nice color arrangement, so I'm going to use it. So the very first thing that we're going to do today, now that the skin is all finished, so we've got our finished understructure, our foam body, and our skin. And now, of course, we got to join them together. So the way we do that, this is going to be a little tricky to catch on camera. I'll do my best. We start with the foam body, and we start with the skin inside out, just like it is now. And we glue, just by way of demonstration, we glue the mouth like that. Let's see, turn it. And then we're gonna wrap this around and turn the whole thing inside out, or right side out, and kind of like envelop the body, the foam body, in the skin. There's some trickiness to this. As I was saying last time, or time before last time, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. That you can put, a skin on a mouth plate. And the way that a lot of people do it, the way a lot of professionals do it, is they'll finish the interior of the mouth first, and they'll actually make the skin, turn the skin right side out, wrap the skin around, and then pull it down and kind of glue it bit by bit along this edge. It's really tricky to do. And so the alternative, and the one that I find easier, is to do this, is to sew a fabric mouth plate in and then glue the whole thing to the rigid mouth plate. The tricky part of that is this, this just being fabric, this will have a tendency to kind of fold and buckle and wrinkle. And you want this to be completely smooth on the inside. You don't want any, little bumps or anything. So I developed a little trick to help with that. It doesn't cure the problem. You still have to be careful. There's a couple of ways to get around this, or at least work with that. One of the ways is to do what's called a wet fit, which is where, how we're talking about you need to dry the contact cement almost all the way before you glue the two pieces together. In this case, you don't. You put the glue on both sides, and then you slap it on while the glue is still wet. Turn the whole thing right side out, and then because the glue is wet, you have time to kind of shift and slide things around and massage the wrinkles out. That's okay, but it's dicey if you can do that. Sometimes the glue will set a little faster than you think, and then you're stuck with the wrinkles inside the mouth, and that's not great. So one trick I developed to help combat that is I cut a piece of 1/2-inch foam that is the same diameter as the totality of the rigid mouth. So that encompasses both the inside and the kind of little lip area here. And then I take this and I put it inside the skin when it's inside out. And I kind of, get this on camera, shove it up into the mouth area so that it acts kind of as a cushion. You see how it kind of pushes that out? That, when I'm joining the two plates together, this helps this fabric to not buckle and wrinkle and fold up. It's not perfect, but it's a big help compared to trying to do it without this. If there are any puppet builders watching this, there's a little tip for you. I don't know if anybody else does this. I haven't seen anybody else do this, but it helps me a whole lot. This is already looking a little wrinkly, so this may not go well. I don't know. Live mistakes on camera. The best kind. But, excuse me for a sec, you'll also notice I'm wearing a button-up shirt today. There is a reason for that. It's way easier to clip a lav mic onto a button-up shirt than it is with a t-shirt. I'd like nice shirts and things anyway, so that's all in my favor. I do wear t-shirts and stuff, but I'm just bumming around the house, but I'm in public right now. So once again, our glue is glued tight, so we got to take the hair dryer, loosen up the glue, make the metal expand, and voila. Stir that up a little bit. Let me clear some space here, because this is tricky. It's also going to be tricky to get on camera. Can you ever lose a puppet during construction? Oh, yes. You may be witnessing that live. Absolutely. There are times when I've had to just abandon if something goes too far wrong. But particularly in this stage, actually, because if the glue, if it does fold up, if the fabric does fold up and the glue is dry enough, that's stuck together. You can kind of get in there with a hairdryer and try and pull it apart and massage it. But yeah, there have been lots of times where it's like, well, I could spend 2 hours trying to fix this, or I could spend 1 hour making a new one. So that has to go. That happened recently, actually, on the big furry monster that I built with the blinking mech. I can't remember why this happened. Oh yeah, the blink mech didn't quite work in the skull that I had built. It was uncomfortable. So I decided, I'll just pull this apart and make another skull that's better. And I did that, and it's hard to there were holes cut for where the eyes should go. And they were a little bit different from the original. Like just eyeballing it, it's hard to measure this stuff. So, and it's hard to template this stuff. Sometimes you just got to get in there and go, well, it's about here. And so the skin that I made didn't work with the new skull. So I just had to toss it and do it again. There was I probably could have used the skull for something else, but it had holes cut in it by then for the eye. It was a whole thing. It was more work than it was worth to try and salvage. So yeah, definitely, particularly when I'm prototyping. When I'm prototyping something, I showed you the original prototype of the Smol the other day. That went through 5 iterations before I got the finished product that I liked, and then I could template that out and make it a pattern. But I don't have a lot of room for storage, so I can't keep a lot of stuff that I'm not actively using around. So yeah, I just end up tossing, prototypes in the garbage because there's nothing else I can do with them. They're not good enough to sell, and I can't store them. I would like to keep them sometimes, but I have a little. I don't know if we can see on the wide. No, we can't. Of course, we can't. Behind me, there's this kind of shelf where there's 3 puppets. That's my shop museum. That's the prototype Greebly, one of the prototype Smols, and the first puppet I made since I started building. And I keep those on a special shelf, and that's the kind of shrine. That's the special place. But other than that, I can't store stuff. So I literally have a closet full of puppets I don't use that I have bought for my collection that I need the shelf space to store stuff for the shop. So I got a closet with just puppets stuffed into them. It's bad. Once we can go outside again, and talk to other humans in real life. I'm gonna like donate them to like a children's hospital or something. I'm gonna find some place that would want them and donate them. Anyway, so this is actually a nerve-wracking part, and it's not great to do this as the first thing because I'm kind of not warmed up yet. But oh well. Welcome to the danger zone. So I'm gonna put glue on both surfaces. So we will do that. I'm gonna do it on the foam body first. Yeah, that's so donating. Sometimes like not just children's hospitals, but like child psychologists, psychiatrists and stuff will want them. That's a good place to look, or like local schools, kindergartens and stuff. For sure, it's great to have a little corral of puppets for the kids. That's real fun. But there's lots of places that will want them, like daycares. Sometimes, like a local business may want a mascot. All kinds of places. There's more puppets around than you might think. For example, today the new Mandalorian episode is out, and there's a very popular puppet on that show. Pedro Pascal is a puppet now. Of course, it's the child. I won't call him Baby Yoda because he's not Baby Yoda. Yoda is not the name of his species. Yoda is Yoda. It's his name. Okay, we assume. There was Yaddle, another member of Yoda's species, so definitely the species is not called Yoda. There we go. So I'm kind of. You should change the camera, Kevin. There. I'm more or less keeping the glue confined to the inner area here where we drew those lines. I'm not being super careful about it because it doesn't really matter if it goes on the outside. That's fine. All it's going to do is glue the fabric more. So we'll just set that aside. Behave yourself. And now the tricky bit. Now, this is another place where having the kind of foam pillow in there helps. When putting the glue on, it helps to create a flat surface area. View. Trying to keep this all on camera, but it ain't easy. We don't want, once again, do not use the giant gob of glue. Just want one thin coat. And this I am only putting on the fabric, or the red fabric. This is a place where 2 coats wouldn't be a bad idea, but I think we'll be bold and only do 1. I don't like putting it too thick anywhere, but not here particularly, because if the fabric does fold and wrinkle, the more glue, the harder it is to fix. So, and once again, I got to say this every time, but this is just a safety thing. I am in a well-ventilated space. I have an air duct above me bringing air in, and I have a fan venting out, so I have a constant air circulation right above the work surface. I am fine. I barely even smell that stuff. So now we got to dry our glue with the magic hair dryer. There we go. And like I said before, the goal you want to get to with the glue dryness is you want it to be a little bit tacky, but if you were to touch it, nothing will come off on your finger. Yeah, that's pretty good. You kind of get a feel for it after a while. You kind of can just tell. It actually changes appearance a little bit. It goes, like, of course, when it goes on, it's just a wet, sloppy mess. So it just goes on like, glistening glue. And after you dry it for a little while, it kind of goes crystalline. It kind of sparkles a little bit, and you'll get a feel for it after a while how it looks when it's ready. This one is actually almost ready. I've got a bit of a frost breeze going on that has been drying this, but just for some insurance. There we go. So this is the tricky part. This is the moment of truth. Maybe we'll go. Yeah, that's not bad. I gotta fix. I apologize. The autofocus on this camera is aggressive. Speaking of aggressive, I have had a word with Nightbot. Nightbot should be less intense now. So, as you can see, I'm just marrying these two together, and we're going to line up our always important center lines. Place it down. That feels pretty good. I think we're okay. Just kind of feeling around inside there, and yeah, that feels all right. I think we are safe. So I've pulled out the foam pillow. And so there's what we're like right now, right? We've got the kiss of life, I guess, something like that. Let's do this camera. So now we're going to turn it. We're going to kind of wrap the skin around like it's eating. It's eating itself. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep the center line of the fabric aligned with the center line of the foam body, just so it's nice and tidy. We can shift it around afterwards, but it's a bit finicky sometimes. The less tension you put on these things, the better. Come on, baby. I believe in you. Okay. You know, you never know exactly what you're going to get until you do it. So it can surprise you sometimes. And that's part of what puppet builders do is they just work with what they got. And if it isn't exactly what you planned on, you just got to roll with it. This is pretty good. This isn't bad. I'll show you in detail in a second. This turned out okay. Little divot in the mouth there, but that's not too bad. But I remember I haven't picked the seams yet, so these seams are going to be real visible. It's got to line up a little bit closer. But for the moment, there we go. It's a puppet. Yay! Got some wrinkles to work out. You'll notice on it's actually not so bad on this one. Sometimes, like you'll see in the picture of Smol there, there's some sort of bumps along the body seam. That's just from the tension of the thread from sewing. Those will eventually kind of relax and work out. It's just because it's a new puppet that it looks like that. But as you use them, that's the thing about all of these puppets, like Muppet style puppets, is it's good to like use the puppet for a while, and then things like the fabric will relax and things will smooth out, and it will get kind of a nice worn floppiness to it. A brand new puppet's also always a little bit stiff and always a little bit, sharp around the edges. So here we go. Not bad. Not bad at all. There's a couple of little, kooky bits. I think, the maker is always the most critical of their own work. Stuff like this does kind of bug me when there's a little divot, and nobody cares about that. It's part of the organicness that makes them nice. So there we go. So I think I don't know if I'm going to seam blend now or later, because the next step, are you wearing the puppet in the picture? So in the picture, no, actually I'm not. That's on a stand. I use I got one over here. These are like little clips that keep potato chip bags closed. I put one of these inside to keep the mouth closed. And that's just on a stand. So no, in that picture, I am not wearing that puppet. a little bit of a dip in the lip here. I don't really like. Zeptek, hey, how you doing? Good morning. If it's morning where you are, I don't know. It's morning where I am, so taking the egocentric view of the universe. I am gonna blend the seam a little bit around the lip, just because that's always really obvious. So the way you do that, I wonder how goes the stream. I almost forgot your stream. I'm good. It's 8 a.m. for me. Well, that's pretty early. I'm an early riser myself, but it's 10:28 currently for me. Stream is going well, as you can see. We're well on the way to getting this guy finished. I keep saying guy. I got to stop using gendered language. I'm an old man. It's just habit. Anyway, so I'm just taking a pin and you kind of brush gently along the seam, pulling those fibers out. And you see, it makes it much, there's still a line there, but it's a much softer, more gentle line. Yes. Well, it's funny, like, I am very progressive in my politics and I try to use language that is not hurtful. But everybody seems to default to calling puppets male, even when there's no obvious, like, how does this blob present as male or female? Neither. It's nothing. It's nothing until it becomes a character, right? And that's for the owner to decide. So, but it's weird how everybody seems to default to this guy or this little dude. So anyway, I don't know if we can see that. Let me try doing this camera. It's not great. This camera is not terribly useful, but you can see this seam here is blended a little bit and then it's not. So you can see it a little more harshly, but that's what I'm going to do along the whole seam eventually. So what's next? Now that we got this, dude was always gender neutral. Others will say, yeah, it's a call. Actually, I just there's a great podcast called No Such Thing as a Fish. If you're familiar with the British TV series QI, this is some of the researchers from QI do this hilariously funny podcast, and I think it was on there that they recently talked about how the word dude originally referred to women. It was on No Such Thing as a Fish, and it became gender flipped at some point, but that's not a bad thing. We'll reclaim dude for a gender neutral term. That's not bad. I like that. Okay, so now that we got this, before this goes up on the shop, I'm gonna sort of massage it a little bit and get the skin a little bit nicer sitting and stuff like that. But this isn't bad the way it is. Next step, we're gonna get the machine out. We're actually gonna machine sew some stuff. And that's gonna be fun on stream. One of the reasons why I got the big wide angle camera, this one up here, is because when I machine sew, I have a bad back and I can't sort of lean over the sewing machine without it making a lot of pain happen. So I try to avoid that. This is a standing desk conversion. This thing can lift up. So it's much better for me to machine sew when I'm standing. So I have to put the machine on the thing, raise up the platform, and then machine sew while I'm standing. So that's one of the reasons that this camera is there, so you can actually at least see something. We're not going to get a tight shot of the sewing, unfortunately. Again, this is all a work in progress. Cameras will change. But that's one of the reasons why this camera is way the heck up there. So at least you'll see something on stream and not just, a platform in front of a camera. Keep looking at the wrong camera. Chainsaw Puppets. Maybe I should change the name of the company from Operation Puppet to Chainsaw Puppets. So the very first thing to do in that case, let me not accidentally clicked the mouse. How's the stream quality, by the way? It looks okay to me, but chainsaws and fire. We're going to be using fire in a little bit. Actually, we'll actually use real fire. I'll show you why. I'll show you how. We'll get there, I hope. But yes, maybe not chainsaws, but fire. Oh, forgive me. Sounds terrible. So here is the template. Stream is good? Good. Excellent. I'm not seeing any dropped frames reported. So the stream is like, we're not having those huge pauses. I don't know, because I didn't see that on my end. I only saw it during the playback and on the VOD. Trying to work out the technical stuff. Okay. Focus, Kevin. I actually slept okay last night, which is weird. But so, of course, I'm super tired today. Naturally. What we got to do is, so here's the template for the arm. There's a couple of ways I can approach this. Like, this is a good thing to talk about. Oh, my mic transmitter is cutting into me. It doesn't feel good. I've ordered a new mic, by the way. This mic sounds terrible and I hate it, but I have ordered a much better quality broadcast mic. I've got lots of mics. I mean, you may know I'm a media guy, so I've got lots of like broadcast quality mics, all of them wired, and I can't use a wired mic to be tethered to like a mixer. While I'm doing this, I got to be able to stand up and walk around. So this is the only wireless mic I have, and it sounds terrible. But there's a new one coming, and it should be arriving today, so that will be good. On the next stream, I should sound much better. So we've got our template for our arm here. And there's a couple of ways that I could approach this. So the way that you usually do an arm like this, even if there's more fingers, is you take the fleece, fold it in half, just like we did for the body, trace it out, and then you run the machine along that line, and then you cut it out. It goes a lot faster if you do it that way, rather than cutting out the thing and then trying to hand sew along the edge. The question then is, so then what you have to do, of course, is flip it right side out, because it starts out inside out. So then the question is, where do you got to leave a hole somewhere to be able to turn it. And I keep changing the way I do it every time I make one of these. The common way, of course, like when I'm making a greebly arm or something like that, is I leave the top here open. And then you just sort of turn it like that. But I have found on these, because of the way these attach to the body, imagine this is just the fabric, these just get sewn on like that. So it's nice to have a clean, closed edge up here. So sometimes what I'll do with these is instead of, I'll actually close off the top and I'll leave a gap. It's not being inconsistent with arms, it's called being experimentally customized. Yes, absolutely. Well, and that's the other thing, like I keep saying, every puppet is different. Every time you build one, even if you're using the same pattern, something is going to be different. The fabric has shifted some way you didn't predict, or something is going to be, because it's soft materials, it compresses and stretches. Something is going to be different. It's impossible. Like this Smol, despite the fact that being exactly the same pattern, is not going to look like that exactly. It'll have similarities. It'll clearly be in the same species, as it were, but it's not going to look identical, which is nice. Because then on the marketing, I can say each one is unique, and it's true. Also, I try not to make two with exactly the same color combinations and things like that. So already this guy's different because he's got a red mouth instead of a black. But as I was saying, so instead of leaving this open and turning it in that and then sewing it up, sometimes what I'll do with these is I'll actually leave a gap along the bottom edge of the hand. And that's a habit when you're making arms with arm rods, because there's an insert made out of foam and wire that goes in there. And that's how you do it. You just basically shove it in and then you ladder stitch it closed. And I think that may be, well, the thing about it is you gotta hand stitch it closed one way or the other. And I like having a more finished edge here because you do kind of see that edge. I don't know if I can demonstrate that on a finished Smol, but you see this edge here. This is, you see this edge, right? And it actually gets sewn from the bottom. And you can see those stitches for sure, but because the arm is always like that, you don't, it's not really a visible thing. There's always something that you got to hide or mask or blend, and this is one of those cases. But here, this one was made stitching up the hand, and you can see the ladder stitch along here where I closed the hole up. And that's also not bad because you rarely see like the back end of the hand of the puppet even when it's being performed. So, tough call. I don't think you can hear it because the mic filter is good, but Jimmy is at the door yelling his head off. That would be my cat, for those of you who haven't been watching this stream, not my roommate. The poor guy, he's codependent. He doesn't like it when I close the door, but I have to close the door, particularly when I'm gluing. It looked like a sibling or whatnot. Yes, absolutely. All of my puppets are somehow related to each other. This is actually a tough call. I think I will do the hand gap, as it were, for this one, just because it's a little bit easier to turn as well, because it's a larger gap. So let me grab the fleece. And I'm going to move our semi-finished puppet up to the windowsill here, just to get it out of the way, because the machine takes up a lot of space. I never really noticed stitching on puppets too much before. Yeah, it's, well, that's, again, there's a kind of willing suspension of disbelief, but it's not willing because it's not an intentional conscious thing. You just don't notice it, you know? And people look at the Muppets and they think, wow, how do they, get them so smooth and clean? And the truth is they don't. If you look at some of the stuff in Muppets Now, the new Disney Plus series, particularly Scooter, because they're shooting all that stuff at home. And of course, they don't have, broadcast studio lights and cameras and stuff. They're a lot of the time they're just shooting it like with a ring light and an iPhone. You can see the seams, like you can see the stitch down the middle of Scooter's nose. It's a lot of it is the fidelity of the recording. A lot of it is the lighting. They do a lot of work seam blending, of course, but the performers are not calling. Yeah, exactly. The performers are not calling attention to it, so you just don't see it. This is part of the magic of puppets. Is a good performer can take the simplest, crudest puppet and make a great character out of it, and make a believable character out of it because the performance is so strong. Kermit is the perfect example of this. Kermit is just a kind of sock puppet, but in the hands of somebody like Jim Henson or Steve Whitmire or Matt Vogel, he comes alive. And you can see this in interviews, particularly when Jim used to go on talk shows. The host ends up talking to Kermit, and Jim just disappears, despite the fact that there's no attempt at hiding the fact of this. There's his sleeve and a hand, and you can see the arm rods and the whole thing, but you just believe it. There's no participation of like going, oh, okay, I know this is a puppet, but I'm going to pretend like he's real. You just talk to Kermit. Kermit's there. Kermit's a living thing, and that is entirely down to the strength of the performance. You just buy it. You just believe it. And you can't, this is why puppets are special. With a cartoon or a CG character, you can have these amazingly talented performers and artists behind them, but the performance that's happening at the time is going to be different than what you're seeing on the screen. What's happening on in camera is different from what's going to happen in the finished product. And the thing about puppets is they are real physical objects and they share our physical space. And so you don't have to pretend. You don't have to talk two ping pong balls on a stick and go, okay, that's going to be a character. The character's right there to relate to. And even when we are doing a lot of post processing, the fact that you just know that makes it more believable, makes it more like there's the buy-in is much lower. So the puppets are good, is what we're coming down to. I don't know if you can hear this. Again, the mic is probably filtering this out, but the daycare below us has now opened, and there are screaming children outside, and I can't close the window, of course, because there's glue fumes around. So if you hear screaming children, it ain't me. It's coming from the daycare. Okay, good. They haven't quite started up full blast yet. When they really get going, it's a horror show. It sounds like they've got a giant shredding machine and they're just trucking children into it. So. Uh, I could see a little bit. The mic was moving. The meter was moving a little bit. We'll see. It's very relaxing living over the sound of screaming children. So anyway, here we go with our disappearing ink pen again. It's like the magic hair dryer, no sound at all. Yeah, this filter is real good. I'm super happy with the NVIDIA filters. So like before, we are doubling up the fleece. And of course, I'm leaving enough room so that when this shifts around, and it will, I'm not going to go over the edge. I'm going to leave some allowance here. I'm also coming in a bit from the edge here because this is the finished edge of the machine. I think you can see that on camera. You see these are roller marks from where it came off the mill. We don't want those. So I'm going to go in a little bit. It's a little wasteful, but I save big scraps, and those are good for features, eyelids, and things like that. So just going to trace around. Again, don't have to be super precise, and I try not to be super precise because a little bit of variation is nice and organic. You just gotta ballpark it. And there we go. You'll notice that on the finished Smols, they have like a finger thing. They have that comes later. Well, that's just a line that gets sewn up the middle. How are we going to put this in? So the trick here is because we're running this through the machine, we don't want to make these too close because we need to leave a little bit of seam allowance. I'm guessing that the kids downstairs would love your puppets if they ever saw them. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. I was tempted one day. It was so bad, and I was trying to shoot the Oracle. I wanted to stick Frankie out the window and go, "Hey, just shut up, you kids! You lousy! I'm not Oscar the Grouch, but I'm his friend." Then, of course, all they would be doing is asking for more. Does this fabric ever fray? Yes, it can. It is, as I showed last time, this is a netting that the pile is kind of attached to. And it can fray. Thankfully, on any sewed edge, you're fine. But that's one of the reasons why I don't want to leave this open and then try to hand sew it closed. I want a nice clean edge here because it's easier to ladder stitch along a straight line like this and close that up than it is to go along an open edge there and try and make that clean and pristine so it isn't going to fray. But yeah, it can fray for sure. That's one of the reasons why sometimes we've got to do repairs and replace a whole skin. That happens on things like the Muppets quite often. They'll literally have to take the puppet apart and make a new skin or sew up the existing skin. It's not terribly prone to fraying, thankfully. It's one of the nice things about it. But it can fray with wear. What is even worse is some of the cheaper ultra suedes, like what I was using for the inside of the mouth. Thankfully, this stuff that I get, the stuff I get from Puppet Pelts, they sell some ultra suede. That stuff doesn't fray at all. I can cut it with anything, and it's perfectly fine. I have some other ultra suede. I have some black stuff in a different color red that is from a lesser supplier. It's not quite as good quality, and that stuff I really do have to be careful because it does fray quite easily. Put the pattern back in the envelope so I don't lose it, because that would be bad. So you'll see I haven't gone too close. I may have actually gone closer than I should, but we'll see how that goes. So the next thing is to pin along the insides, just like we did with the skin. And we will be taking these out as we go along the machine. Here's another bent pin. I got to get rid of the bent pins. Why do I keep the bent pins? They're more trouble than they're worth. Here's a good object lesson, actually. I'm going to get rid of this pin, but I'm not going to throw it in the garbage. It's safety lesson time, kids. So in puppetry and most, fabrication processes, you will be working with things that are like sharp blades, pointy things, sharp things, things that are dangerous. You don't ever want to just throw something like that in the garbage, because it's going to poke through garbage bags, and then either you or someone in your household is going to pick that up. It could fall out. It could make a hole and fall out, and then a pet could get it. Garbage sanitation workers are going to pick up that bag. You don't ever want to throw a blade, a naked blade, or a naked pin or a pointy thing into the garbage just plain. So what you do, diabetics know about this because they, of course, they have syringes for insulin, and so they have what are called sharp. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world is like this, but in Canada we have these things called sharp containers. I think they are, and they're basically just like a sealed plastic container that you can put stuff in, and the hole kind of seals up, and so you have a little bucket instead of individual, needles. So you can make your own. This is just an old package of mixed nuts that I ate all the nuts. And what you do is you make a little hole, little slit in the top. That's upside down. There you go. Old X-Acto blades, see? You make a slit in the top. You tape off the rest of it so it's nice and sealed. Same in the UK. Yeah, good. So you seal it up with tape, you make a slit in the top, and then anything that you're going to throw out that is sharp or dangerous. USA has it too. My dad makes models, and he thought, you're throwing razor blades to wrap them in duct tape as well. Good. Yes, that's also. You just got to make sure that there's no naked edge that goes in the garbage, right? This is a quick and easy thing that I do for the shop. So anything that's sharp, any blade, anything like that. This is a pin, but it's a bent pin that's garbage. So in it goes. And now, when you're done, you tape off the top, and then you throw the whole thing out. And this is much, much safer for everybody. Safety lectures are part of the fun. So back to our arms. My goal is to finish this puppet today on stream. So I should get a wiggle on. Pie Wackets, are you in the UK? Is that what you know about that? Or are you from somewhere else and you just happen to know that? I have always wanted to visit the UK. I am a big fan of British comedy, and also British archaeology. Yes, I'm in England. Nice, awesome. One of the places I most want to visit. This is probably outside of where you are, but the Orkney Isles. There's so much great archaeology there. I'm a big fan of archaeology. Is that even correct? I'm an enthusiast for archaeology, and Orkney has some amazing archaeology. You can say you have fans around the world now. Yes, that's true. How about that? Operation Puppet, International Puppet Builders. There's some great puppet builders in the UK as well. I think CK Puppets is in the UK. Bill Fletcher, I want to say his name is. I'm on stream, so the memory isn't good. One of the best puppet builders in the world is based in the UK, Phil Fletcher. How well is this going to go? Well, I guess we'll find out. This is going to get a bit tricky, but hey, the mouth went so well that we're just going to trust that the fates are with us. Oh, I should have pointed out as well, I did do the same thing with the stretch. Remember how fleece stretches more in one direction than another? This stretch is going horizontally. In general, you always want to go horizontal across the thing that you're making. So the stretch will wrap around the thing rather than having gravity pull at it. So I'm just cutting this out in a big square, like so. Do Nick Park stuff count as puppets? I don't know who that is. I probably do, but it's not coming to mind right now. Lots of stuff counts as puppets. I mean, if it's a physical object and they're performing it live, that's a puppet, you know. All puppets ain't like this. It's shadow puppets and marionettes, even some digital stuff. Oh, I need that thread. I'll put that thread away. But I am going to move this out of the way. You're going to stay there and not fall over. I proclaim it. Shaun the Sheep, Rolls and Gromit. Oh, okay. Yeah. Kind of, actually. Stop the figures that they use in stop motion animation, they call puppets. And in fact, if you go to the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, which I was planning to do for my birthday before COVID happened, yes, they call stop motion figures puppets. It's very similar in that the kind of language of motion is the same. I've done a bunch of animation myself, and I can tell you that the kind of instincts for movement is the same across animation and puppetry. You're just in puppetry, you're just doing it in real time, and in animation, you're doing it frame by frame by frame. You know. There was a live action Wallace and Gromit. You're kidding. That sounds terrible. Although I have always wanted to see, I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan, R.I.P. And I've always thought that the Aardman style of claymation, yeah, you can link it. I don't know if Nightbot's going to grab that or not. Try it. I mean, I no. Sorry, I tame Nightbot somewhat, but not quite as quite as good. In a second, let me see if I can make Nightbot behave. Anyway, I have always thought that the Aardman style of claymation like that, like Wallace and Gromit, would be perfect for Discworld. I would love to see a Discworld feature done in that style. It's probably not going to happen. Also a jazz fan. Nice. That's what we're missing. What happened to the music? The chill beats stopped. Hang on. Didn't even notice. It says the chill beats are going, but the chill beats aren't going. Are the chill beats going? No, the chill beats are not going. Oh, there we go. I am very much a traditional jazz fan. I'm not anything post-war. I fall off like Dizzy Gillespie on. I'm kind of, but you show me that New Orleans stuff, boy, and I'm there. I have a stop motion of truckers. It's not very good, but if you are right, it works well. Yeah. Oh, they did a stop motion of truckers. Interesting. I've lost thread. He brought me back. I gotta get the machine out and set it up. This is where things get weird. Oh, we'll see how it goes. So look, see, this is why I'm going to switch to the wide angle camera, because I haven't even raised the platform yet. This is all you can see. Let's see what happens when I do raise the platform. I should have raised this ahead of time, but thank goodness we got the chill beats for this part. Otherwise, it'll go terrible. Let's see. Yep, getting closer to the camera. There, how's that? That's great, isn't it? No. That's the least you can see something, right? I got a thread our machine. This is an old clunky machine. This is my wife's for many, many years before we met, and it is a classic, well-seasoned, shall we say. I keep thinking about getting a new one, but this has done a fine job, and I don't really have a need to get another one, so why spend the money? I ran a traditional jazz band for several years. I'm not a musician, but I like the style. Yeah, you show me some Louis Armstrong, Jelly Roll Morton, Kid Ory, Sidney Bechet. In more recent bands, Tuba Skinny, Smokin' Time Jazz Band, Shotgun Jazz Band, Marla Dixon, Preservation Hall. One of my most special memories of my entire life is being able to sit in Preservation Hall and listen to that band. Okay. That's where the whole character Jelly Roll, I don't know how much Jelly Roll you guys may have seen. He's probably more on the YouTube channel than on the Twitch Always On stuff, but Jelly Roll exists so I can do my Louisiana accent and talk about jazz. His voice is supposed to sound a little bit like Dr. John. And there's a Muppet connection there, because of course Dr. Teeth is based on Dr. John. Because Jim was from Mississippi and loved Dr. John. All kinds of Southern music. Here we go, gracefully threading the machine. All right, this part's always a bit dicey because, like I say, this machine is kind of old and creaky. So I always got to take a piece of spare fleece, run it through real quick. Oh, where's the left the pedal over here? That's not good. Probably want that. Put the foot down. Oh, something ain't right. Come on, give me a break. I'm live on the internet, don't embarrass me. Among the reasons that I believe sewing machines have a limited use in puppet building, I mean, they are essential, but not as much as you might think. It's specifically for this reason, because they're fiddly and can jam. And the thing about the jamming is if you end up ruining your fleece, as we talked about already, this stuff isn't really cheap and it's a problem. So rather than run the risk of ruining it, I generally prefer to hand sew. But that seems better. But the internet thrives on embarrassment. It sure does. It'll be great for marketing. All right. That seems okay. So all I'm doing is I'm laying this in. I'm just tracing along the lines what I drew. And the first thing is I'm going to take out one of those pins that's in the way. And come on. Behave. Now, of course, the The fiddly part of this is since we got to go around a whole bunch of corners, that's when it can get slow and you got to kind of hand crank it. But yeah. And taking it with pins as we go. Now here, this line, because I'm going to leave the hand open, the line that I'm doing right now this is kind of done. So just back stitch it a few times to lock that stitch in. Pull it out and snip, snip. Generally speaking, as well, when I'm doing this kind of thing, is gonna be like when you have to do this, you have to stop, take it out, put it back in. There's sometimes can be like a little gap where the machine hasn't exactly lined up. So you go over it afterwards and you take a look and you say, oh, I gotta stick a couple of hand stitches in there, whatever. That's fine. This is still faster than doing the whole thing by hand. All right, so here we've come to a corner. So needle down, foot up, turn the fabric, foot down. And try and get that pin out of there. I did all the pins in different directions like I shouldn't. So it's a game. So we're going slowly around the curve. He said like curve it for some reason. Just check that if you were interested, Truckers made in 1992. Yeah, I will definitely check that out. Isn't that about when the Discworld animated stuff was done? Like Weird Sisters and Soul Music, I think? They were okay. They weren't great. Controversial's time. It's I ain't interested in that Watch series they're developing, let me tell you. That thing looks like a travesty. I'm not really a purist. I like conceptual things, but that thing just looks... They went too far. We're actually getting to the point of locking this off. All right, so there's one. Also, I don't know if you can tell from here, I'm not following the line like super precise. Again, that's okay. We're not trying to build microchips here. We're trying to make a nice, friendly, lumpy puppet. Lumpy, lumpy puppets. So, did that come out? It came out. That was my fault. Excuse me, I gotta reseat the thread. More scrap. All right, that looks pretty good. This is why we keep scrap. That can be used. So that's a big piece of scrap. Coffee. Thankfully, this is the hardest part of what's remaining in this build. So there is a bit of hand sewing coming up, attaching the arms. This is the hardest part, but the most annoying part is yet to come, and that's actually sewing the arms to the creature. Wouldn't the hardest part of the build be figuring out what you want to make? Yes, that's why I plan ahead. That brings up an interesting point. One sec. So, hang on, maybe we can switch cameras. No, we can't switch cameras. Doing the streams, of course, since I'm doing what I would be doing every day anyway, building puppets and then putting them up on the shop, it's nice, of course, to show a puppet build from beginning to end, but that's actually kind of slowing me down a bit. This is because I'm having to sort of space it out. This is the only puppet that will have made this week, and I usually make 3 puppets at least a week. I haven't been building on the off days. This has been a bit of a weird week with the console launches and everything. So I'm kind of having to figure out what should I build on stream ahead of time. So next time, on Monday, assuming we finish this, I think I'm going to build a regular Greebly, which if you've seen the shop, you know what that is. And we're going to try and build the whole thing in one sitting. Hopefully I sleep well on Sunday night. We will see. But that will be fun. And by fun, I mean grueling. It's not bad. Regular Greeblies are quite simple. And I should be able to do it all in one session. It might be a long stream. Definitely going to want to plan lunch ahead of time, but that's the other thing. Streaming like on a regular basis at a regular time has given me the need to shape my day a bit more. Like I want to make sure I have something to eat before I go on stream because I could be here for a few hours and I have to brew my coffee slightly later so I have it to drink on stream because I get up real early. So all these things you never thought you'd have to think about because you're streaming. There we go. Getting there. This is also the only bit of, machine sewing that this puppet takes. Honestly, same. Yeah, it's old. Oh boy, I just did a wrong thing. I just lifted the foot and the needle at the same time. Let's see if we can recover. Give me a stitch. Give me another stitch. Okay, I think we're all right. Oops. Let me tell you, folks, this ain't easy to do live. But I'm getting used to it. This is stream number 3, so, you know. And as far as terrible mistakes go, there hasn't been anything so far. So we got a good track record so far. I guarantee at some point something's going to go terribly wrong. I try not to swear on stream because I try and keep this family friendly, but it's going to happen. Funny story. Jim Henson, of course, known for being incredibly mild-mannered. I think it was Jerry Nelson who told this story, or possibly Dave Goles. They only ever heard him swear once. And it was when Disney was being not great negotiators. And he referred to the goddamned deal. And everybody was shocked because Jim just used a curse word. So there you go. Thanks, Disney, you made Jim Henson swear. I mean, as swears go, that's not bad. But, you know, it's still Jim Henson. It's like hearing Mr. Rogers say something like that. So there we have Now, we're not going to put the machine away yet, even though I'd love to. I don't really like the machine. I don't know if that's come across. I was thinking about Jim Henson swearing like this thing, like Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross. I mean, we know it's possible, but it's weird. Yep, you are correct. It is possible and weird. Okay, so the order of operations here should be, I cut these out, I put a little bit of stuffing, or actually no, I don't put the stuffing in, I cut these out, then I sew up the finger bit. Actually, yeah, that's good. I'll do it like that, because this line here, the line that defines the fingers, is also done on the machine, so I don't want to put the machine away just yet, but we will cut these out. So I've trimmed off all the thread, and I'm just going to cut around the stitching, making sure that I'm not cutting into the stitching, of course. And then we will have our arms free, like a sculptor freeing the statue from the stone. Very poetic. And I'm also leaving a relatively healthy seam allowance because, as I think it was Pie Wackets asked, yes, this fabric can fray, and one of the places that it can fray is along these edges. So you want to give it enough seam allowance that if it does fray, it's not going to fray into the stitch. Good question. All these good questions. I have a good audience. I'm also getting a blast of heat. Oh, the heat is on. That's what's going on. I wonder what that was. Because it's been the temperature's been up and down this week. It's actually a little bit chilly out now, which is how I prefer it. But of course, the eternal stereotype, my wife prefers it to be warmer than I do. So she's in charge. Pie Wackus is a mouthful and a pie. Good to know. Thank you, Pie. I will do my best to remember that. Okay. Our arms are free from their surroundings. Now, so yeah, I'll sew the finger lines in now. So all that I do for that is I just like stick the needle in and I go up and down the middle a whole bunch of times. And that kind of creates this illusion that there are fingers, but they ain't fingers. I'll talk about the finger configuration in a second, actually. I'm just going to get this done. Go. That's one. Have I done it again? Have I pulled it? Yep. I am batting something. I don't know sports terms. 0 for 2 sounds about right. I don't know what that means, but we'll go with it. Threading the machine again. Look, machine, I don't like you and you don't like me. But we gotta live with each other, so we'll just get through this, all right? Frankie comes out to help sometimes. Thank goodness for the chill beats. Actually, do this first. There we go. All right. There we go. I gotta trim these. So yeah, I don't have to worry about tying off the thread on the finger bits, because the way I do it is I just go back and forth a whole bunch of times, and you've pretty much locked it in. You have to work at it to take that stitch out. So it's fine. Stop worrying. And once again, this is something that I'm just eyeballing. So each one is a unique snowflake. I got a little messy. How are we doing here? I think it's okay. This is the inside. It doesn't have to be pretty. Very few things are pretty on the inside. Okay, so that's all we need the machine for. So let me stick it back in its holding cell. We need that thread. And we'll do this. Okay, that's pretty good angle. Oh, what am I doing? What's happening? Scissors are in the way. Okay, there we go. Square things up. There's a fisheye effect on the GoPro here that's a bit disconcerting. Okay, where are we at? Dropped frame 0. That's what I like to see. Bit rate is solid. Nice. Hopefully we won't have any drop frames this time. That would be nice. If you guys miss any of this, I have decided I am putting all of these up on the YouTube channel as an archive. If this is all that the YouTube channel becomes, great. It isn't. I'm going to do more Oracle and the Frankie Play stream, so that is something else for the channel. But yeah, I want to saw a few of those. Yeah. It's nice to have a permanent Tish record of this stuff. I do also keep a local recording. So anyway, now what we got to do is turn these, and so we just take that little gap. I'll do more Frankie plays. In fact, I'm working on. I game with Jamie and Andrew tonight, which I should actually send them a message and say, "Hey guys, are we gaming tonight?" And I'm going to find out then what their schedules are like, and we'll figure out a time to do Frankie plays with the guys. And if not, I'll just do Frankie myself. So the way we turn it is we take the gap. Where are we here? We take the gap, and we just kind of push it through the hole. And turn it. Oh boy, you know what I've done? Remember how I said I was going to make a huge mistake on stream and you would catch it? I just did it. I shouldn't have sewed those fingers at this stage. I got to sew them when it's right side out. Okay. Well, you might want to look at the face rig on stream. You might be able to 3D face map. Oh, that's what Frankie is, face rig. Although I like to keep it as a cartoon. I could do a 3D model version of him, but that's a lot of work. Oh boy. Yeah, I did it. I did that thing. Okay, maybe this is recoverable. Here we go. Let's put a vote. I wondered how you're going to stuff them. Yeah, no, you're right. You are absolutely right. I did it wrong. I have also done this before. I made this mistake. I could never remember what the order of operations is. I could, in the interest, it's not a mistake, it's an experiment to test your problem-solving skills. Definitely. This was a test for you. That's what it was. I could try and pull these stitches out. But I did a good job. The choices are try and pull these stitches out or just make new arms. I don't really want to waste this fleece. Maybe we'll try pulling the stitches out. We'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot on one and see if I can get those stitches out. Then turn it, then sew the fingers, you genius. Looking for my stitch ripper. This is the failure stick. This is the stitch ripper for when you gotta get in there and, as the name implies, rip some stitches. Boy, I'm glad this got caught on. Whoever buys this Smol, maybe I'll edit the video before I put it up. No, this is valuable, I think. This is good. One of the nice things about BJ Geyer's courses on the Stan Winston School, maybe remake them into legs or long ear things. That's not a bad thought, actually. But in the interest of being focused, let's try that some other time. That's one thing. It's a distraction. That's one thing that I haven't done yet that I really should do, is do like a full body puppet with legs. I think I'll do like a deluxe Greebly. I'll do like an ultra deluxe Greebly that has a full body. So as I was saying, the Stan Winston BJ Geyer courses, because he's doing them live, they're archives of live streams. He does occasionally make a mistake. This is just increasing the homemade aspect of the puppet. Absolutely, this is so handmade, you can tell. But it was really encouraging to see that, like, somebody of BJ Geyer's stature and professional, standing, he still makes mistakes. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Even the best of the best make mistakes. I'm having my doubts. I did a really good job putting these stitches in. These are thick and tangled. Well, I hope you don't mind a slightly longer stream than I had planned, because I think I'm going to have to remake these. Yeah, this isn't worth it. Let's just see. Let's just see what happens if we try and brute force it. If we're going to throw them out anyway, right? I'll try doing it from this way. Okay. Come on, you don't need those fingers. Pretend you're an assassin. You're getting a hidden blade. That was one of the hilarious parts of the new Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This isn't really a spoiler, but it's slightly spoilery. When your character gets the hidden blade finally, they get given it by a couple of assassins, and they go, "Oh, you're putting it on wrong," because she puts it on over her forearm rather than underneath. And she looks at them and she sees the missing fingers, and she goes, "Well, I'm not going to make the same mistakes you made." So I thought that was pretty good. No. I fear that I must accept the inevitable. I hate accepting the inevitable. I'm not quite there yet. I think this is actually coming. If I can get these little bits out, then I'll go forward. I think I see how to take these stitches out easily, or more easily. Got to do it from the outside, which is counterintuitive, but nevertheless, aha! Hang on. I think we got it. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. Make buff arm by combining and stuffing it. Yeah. One big buff Smol. It's called Smolish. Let me just finish turning this and I can show you. You gotta get something to poke it with. Okay, good. I think this will work, actually. That's not bad. Okay, we're okay. I think we're all right. That's going to be okay. Let me just do the other one. Smol Griefly. Yeah. I wonder what kind of new body shape for the Griefly. The way it is now for the deluxe Grieflies with the foam bodies, it's the same pattern as the skin. So it's basically just like a tapered tube. And I want to do a more kind of, rounded, kermity kind of body. That's something we can work on stream. We can do everything on stream. The one thing it's going to be hard to stream, and unfortunately it's also something I would like to stream a lot because I think you'd be real interested in it, is making one of those big furry monsters. Like a live hands monster with an eyebrow back and everything. The problem is, most of that is hand sewing. All that fur is hand sewn. Takes about a week for me to make a big furry monster. And that's going to be a lot of me sitting here. That'd be cool. Yeah, it seems complicated. It is. The eyebrow mech is tricky. I'm getting better, but I would probably make the actual mech off camera and just kind of explain it, because I sometimes have to take a couple of stabs at it before I get it quite right. It's the bending of the wire part that's tricky, because there's no kind of shortcut to that. I even have a wire bending jig and it's still a struggle. You could do it with an AMA or a podcast thing, where you're doing it, but also have a topic to talk about while you're working. Yeah. Or maybe a guest. Maybe I could find either another builder or somebody in the audience or something that wants to just hang out, like on Discord or something. We'll chat while I build. Something to think about. That might be fun. I'll bet you I could find somebody, a fellow builder or something, so we can go on stream and disagree about how to build puppets. This is almost free of its grievous error. How we doing? Let me trim that off. The most I've built is Lego or a sock puppet. One time that a cat destroyed. Don't knock sock puppets. Sock puppets are, I know you're not knocking sock puppets, but if you are ever inclined to knock a sock puppet, don't. Sock puppets are quite useful. And in fact, that's one of the models I sell on the store. I call sonk puppets, because they're made in a similar fashion to sock puppets, but they're very simple. There's a tube with a mouth, basically. But a lot of people start with sock puppets, and they're great. You can do a lot with them. Simple is good. Okay, well, I'll do some cleanup on this later, but in the interest of actually moving forward, my mom was thrilled when I made them when I was much younger. Making stuff is cool. It's always cool. At the end of the day, even if it's nothing practical or, even if it's just a painting or a drawing or anything, the mental processes that you use when you make stuff helps you in every aspect of life. If you can think creatively, that is one of the most valuable skills in life to learn. I'm gonna put my back through the ringer and not raise up the platform to do this, just so in the interest of time, this shouldn't take a long time. Of course, I have to rethread the machine. Now, this is the correct order. I do stuff it after I sew the fingers, just in case you were wondering. Next time I make a Smol on camera, there's going to be a quiz. Oh, get in there. The red does not want to cooperate. Do 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 do. Where are we at here? How long have we been streaming for? 48 minutes. Is that right? No, 1 hour and a half. Why does that say? OBS is being odd, which is not good. Yeah, there we go. 1 hour 35. Okay. This is going to be a long stream, folks. If you can stick around, that'd be great. If you can't, also fine. Like I said, the archives will go up on the YouTube channel. But I am bound and determined to finish this today. So. Here we go. I'm fine here till the end. This sounds like an apocalypse cult. Great. We're with you, man. We'll go to the mat for you. All right, so the arms are right side out. Now we're sewing the fingers. I hope somebody understanding buys this one. I've had great clients so far. I haven't had any issues. I've had one small issue, and it was totally understandable. All right, much better. Just get rid of all that and do the other one. My cat liked that little machine chirping noise. Really? We were watching something on TV the other night. I think it may have been The Mandalorian. And there was some electronic sound on it, and Jimmy just went berserk, looking around the house for this thing that was on the TV. But as we have established, Jimmy is a special creature. Speaking of that, I can actually open the door soon. Although he stopped yelling, so maybe we'll just let things be peaceful for a while. Because the fumes have kind of cleared out from the glue, and we don't have to glue anything else. Although, when we get to the part where we're using fire, there's going to be a little bit of smoke. So maybe I should just keep the door closed. You open that door, the chilled beats are going to get out, and then everyone will be mellow. I'm just trimming off the little ends here so it's all nice and tidy. Okay, this is acceptable. I'm just waiting by your door silently. He may be sleeping. I put a draft excluder, a little sort of pillowy thing on the bottom of the door where I couldn't get the weather stripping, just to keep the air in. And he could be using that as a pillow right now. Sorry, I just got an email from Jamie, of all people. Just like we were talking about. That wasn't an email, it was a signal. It makes the same notification on my watch. I should tell him, I'm streaming right now, don't message me. Okay, so there we go. We've got our arms with our little fingers. It's a little funky over here. We'll just trim that off. It'll be fine. It's charming. So now, as I observed, we do want to put a little bit of stuffing in here. Got a big bag of fiber fill over here. This is just like teddy bear stuffing. And just put a little tiny bit in each hand. It was a signal flare, it sure was. That's probably too much. Let's do a little bit less. You just need a little tiny bit, because this is still, even if I were to close this up with no stuffing, this would still be pretty plushy because the fabric is so thick. And there's the seam allowance on the inside, so that kind of fleshes it out a bit, but I'm just going to poke a little bit of fiber fill in there, maybe a little bit more, and that just gives the hand a little bit of profile. Just that. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. You don't want to put too much, but this also gives a little bit of weight. And one of the nice things about how the Smol is made, I'll make this on the puppet cam actually. Let's use the rarely used puppet cam. If I use the same foam as the body, yeah, I could. A lot of times you do stuff the arms with foam. I find this to be just a bit quicker and a little bit less work. But you see, with the way the arms work, there's a little bit of plushiness in there, and so when you move, they kind of swing around and bounce, and they're very cute and like that. So that's why the arms aren't rotted. So that's real cute. But if you have a little bit of weight on here, that sort of keeps them hanging down. And works real well. So that's the goal. So you don't want to overstuff them, because then they'll kind of stand out from the body too much. Little plump hands, exactly. But you kind of, just you got to feel it, man. You got to feel it. You'll know when it's right. That thumb isn't quite turned all the way. Let me give it a little help here. There we go. Many things that Sharpies are used for in puppetry, in puppet building, and that's one of them. Poking. They're a good dull poking tool. And number 2. Now, I'm not really stuffing these up into the fingers. I'm stuffing these more into the sort of palm area. because what will happen is if you put some like pressure into the hand area, it will actually force these fingers to kind of twist a little bit. And that looks fantastic. Like it looks like he's got his little finger kind of sticking out. It gives a really nice kind of smooth, fun profile to the fingers. And I discovered that completely by accident. That was not planned. That just kind of happened as I was building it, and I went, wow, that looks great. So we'll keep doing it that way. So there we go. I think maybe a little bit more. I think I also want to poke the Sharpie up into the end a little bit and get the corners out. You see the corners get really, really rounded when you turn it. And I want a little bit more definition on that corner for when I sew it onto the body. So it's a little bit better. It's a matter of taking your thing and poking it. Like many things. It's a family-friendly channel, kid. We're not going any further with that joke. Okay. So now comes a lot of hand sewing. First thing we got to do is close up the hole, and that is where we use a ladder stitch. And hopefully this won't take too long, but let me get into comfortable hand sewing position here. Much better. This part won't take long. It's sewing the arms to the body that will probably take a little while because it's very awkward and little tight corners and things. And that's where we use the curved needle. It's an upholstery needle. Chill beats. Now, as I age, my eyesight's getting worse and worse. I'm probably going to have to start using those easy thread needles at some point, the ones where you don't actually thread them, you just kind of push the thread down. It has a little locking mechanism. That's the moment I become too old. That's not true. I do change glasses though to puppet building. I normally have my little wireframe spectacles, but I have to use these are like 2.5 times reading glasses just to be able to thread a needle. Hey, camera, what are you doing? That's crazy. Get that out. Maybe we'll go here. How's the focus? Because the focus was a little off last time. I think that's okay. Seems all right. You can clearly see the stormtroopers and Darth Vaders and Boba Fett's on my shirt. So again, I wish I had a close-up camera that I could really kind of show you the stitching, but unfortunately, that's a little bit outside of the realm of technical achievements that we have yet to have on the stream, but maybe one day. We'll see. Okay. So ladder stitch, I don't know if you guys saw my long lecture about stitching or different stitches on the last stream. But the ladder stitch is the stitch that most people think is the fabled Henson stitch. It is not, because there isn't the Henson stitch. But nevertheless, it is a stitch that is used on the outside of the fabric when you can't get to the inside. Like in this, for example, I can't go inside, I can't turn this inside out again and sew it. So a ladder stitch is used on the outside of the fabric, and it kind of rolls the two ends together and creates a relatively unobtrusive seam. I'm never going to say invisible seam because there is no such thing as an invisible seam unless you have some very plushy fleece that you can get the fibers to come out. Then you can actually make an invisible seam. But this ain't that. Interestingly, there's a whole drama around fleece and different fleece types in the puppet building community. Because of this whole, what is Antron fleece? When was Antron fleece last made? Is it still made? Can we still call it Antron fleece? What about nylon fleece? Who owns it? There's a whole copyright thing. It's a big thing. But recently, the good folks at Puppet Pelts have been on a quest to kind of get something that is closer to the original Antron fleece. And they talked to some people, and they made some phone calls, and they made plans, and they talked to various mills. And they now have this stuff they're calling Fuzzell. And it is a fleece that is much closer to the original Antron than what this nylon fleece is. It is a very thick pile. It is very, as the name implies, very fuzzy. And looks a lot like the original Muppet fleece, which is fantastic. It's a little bit less stretchy, but that's okay. It still has some stretch, and that's all you need. The problem is, if you want it at around the same price point as nylon fleece, it comes in precisely two colors, black and white. And you got to dye it yourself. Or the good folks at Puppet Pelts are starting to offer some hand-dyed colors, which is great, but also doubles the cost, which it should. It's a lot of labor involved in that. It should be that expensive, but that puts it just outside of the realm of too rich for my blood. One of the things I try to do in my shop is keep my costs down enough so that I don't have to charge a monstrous amount of money. I charge fair compensation for my labor hours. I usually don't even take material costs into account because it's not that bad. But I want to try and keep my costs within the reach of more people. I could dye my own. Yes, Pi, I could. I haven't yet. And like I was saying last time, I'm a little bit nervous about that. It's not difficult, and this kind of fleece actually takes dye really well. So I could, but that's a whole other, it's kind of setup. I would have to, because you have to heat the water and get the right proportion of dye, and you gotta add salt, and there's a whole thing. Thankfully, it does dye with just normal RIT dye that you would go into a store and buy, standard fabric dyes. It takes those dyes really well, so I could. But then again, that there you're running into still labor hours, right? You shouldn't work for free. If you're working, you should get compensated for your work. And then so that in that case, I would have to kind of add on that cost to the cost of the puppet. And I don't really want to do that because then it would start pricing them. I was going to charge a fair price, but not too low. Yeah, exactly. And there's a whole some people for your own personal puppets. Yes. Now here's an interesting point. You know how I was saying last time, I really want to make a good Kermit for myself. Well, this Fuzzell stuff is designed to mimic exactly the fleece that the original Kermits were made out, or not the original, but the 70s Kermits were made out of. So that might be a thing that I try just for me, as sort of on a small scale, right? So not for the shop, but just for I'm spending my money to make this thing, and I'm going to make it, the best possible thing that I can. That sounds like it might be an interesting experiment and interesting for this stream. So maybe there's something to put a pin in. I wouldn't make the whole Kermit on stream because, as we talked about last time, that's probably a copyright violation. Oh, I don't know. That's a real gray area. I would actually have to consult a legal professional to find out if, like, let's say I'm not selling the Kermit. Let's say I'm just building one. Can I do that on stream? I mean, people do, like, I'm going to do a cross stitch of Mario, right? Like, that's the same thing effectively. So, interesting. Good question. I'm not sure. We'll think about that. But I could do... What I would do is I'd probably do, like, most of the build on stream. Tim Wreck, yeah. I just wouldn't do the final assembly on stream, so you wouldn't see a Kermit. You'd just see bits of Kermit. I don't know. But I could do things like do the fabric dyeing on stream. That would require an interesting setup. I'd have to get, like, a hot plate and a big wash tub, like a stock pot or something like that. Interesting, something to think about. But wow, how did we get here? I'm just rambling because I'm sewing. So yes, I may at some point just get some white Fazelle and try to find the right Kermit green. That's another trick, is like because as we talked about before, Kermit has changed color a bit through the years, and I would be trying to match a very specific era. You may be right if it's for personal use, not for resale, but maybe it could be done. Yeah, I think it would be fine to just build one on stream. But again, I would just be keeping it. I wouldn't be putting it up for sale. And I would make it clear during the stream that no, I am not making replicas for sale. This is for my own personal collection. I think it would be fine. It's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, it probably is fine, and I probably am within, like, fair use rights there. But do you want to run the risk? Like, do you want to have that hassle of having to fight it? Right? It works on fear. But we'll see. I gotta make lots of puppets. Like, there's no shortage of stuff to build on stream. So I don't even know when I would have the time to do that, because one of the things I want to do fairly soon. Right now I'm trying to build up stock for the store for, like, the holiday season, right? I thought I was good, and then somebody the other day bought 2 puppets, and suddenly now I'm like, oh, I gotta make more puppets. But after that, maybe during the holiday break, I'll take, like, a week off or something from doing the store. I want to start working on the new Frankie and the Oracle, and that stuff I want to do 100% on stream, as I think that'll be real fun to see the kind of the process from zero to a finished puppet, and then on the show, right? That'll be kind of a treat. So that's something that is next. After I'm done building a bunch of puppets for the shop, I'm going to start on Frankie and the Oracle. And in fact, I just got the other day the Frankie fur, because I'm doing some design changes, but on Frankie, I'm keeping the same fur color. And that just came in. So here we go. We're almost done sewing up the hands. I wonder when I have the face cam, maybe I should change the picture-in-picture to the top down. I think that might be more useful. I have to do that in software for the A10 Mini Pro controller, so I won't be doing it right now. Okay, so there we go. There's our hands are all closed up. I haven't picked these seams yet, so they're still a little rough, but I will later. So next is even more hand sewing. We got to attach. Just have the camera set up to be random every time you change scenes. I don't want to script that. That's random. Are you kidding me? That sounds like work. We gotta sew the arms to the body. If I do it random, it'll be like every once in a while you'll get a picture of my face, and then my face. Nobody wants that. This mouth actually turned out really good. This is really nice and even around the lip. Again, sometimes you just don't know what you're gonna get, so it's a surprise. But yeah, not bad. This lighting is not flattering. So for placing the arms on the body, I have found that there is a right way and a wrong way. The wrong way is to just kind of eyeball it and hope you get it right, because then I did have on my second Smol, I think, I had one arm way higher than the other, and it was visibly jarring, and I had to take it apart and resew it. But one guideline is, of course, this dart right here. I want the arm just kind of resting, like the fingers should kind of be aligned with that. And the top of the shoulder, as it were, should just be in this curve here. So I'm just going to take one of the arms, and then I'm going to pin it on the top. And hopefully not stick myself with the pin. And then I have to do this facing me, so this is going to be not good for the camera, but I have to see it. Let's take the other arm, the pin. And then you can see in my face cam, I'm kind of doing this, right? So I'm looking at it head on, and it's kind of seeing if that looks about even. And if one is higher than the other, which in this case it kind of is, I've got to decide which one I like better. So gravity's not my friend here, but you see that this one is a bit higher than this one. And I think I like it lower down. So I'm just going to take this out and then go about a quarter inch down. That looks pretty good. Let me see, if I hold the arms in place, I can kind of show you there. That's about right. It's not perfect, but like I said, they're all different. They're all unique, special creations. So the way these get sewn on is the actual stitching is on the bottom. And if I was to try and sew it like this when I'm pinning in the top, you got to pin in the top so you can align it. But if I'm sewing from the bottom, having the pin in the top is a pain. So what I got to do now is sort of flip this up, put another pin in the bottom, holding it in place, and then take the top pin out. And so now we're like that. We have the pin in the bottom. So the top pin is just to help align it. And I really should just do one at a time, actually, now that I think about it. This is going to be, because what's going to happen is I'm going to be sewing this and sort of fighting with it, and this is just going to fall right out. So I'm just going to take this out for now. I'm going to sew the first one, and now that I know about where it should be, that's fine. So take that one out, and now I got to sew this one in. This is going to be almost impossible to get on camera properly because I literally have to kind of do it like this. So maybe we'll switch to this camera. Is that any better? Maybe. But this is where it is good to have a curved needle, because you're going into a very tight little space here. So the curved needle helps get through that. And I'm also using a ladder stitch here. Doobie doobie doo. Chill beats. Is there, I haven't looked at the actual stream live. I'm looking at the creator dashboard thing. Isn't there like a thing that pops up seeing what song is on and stuff like that? Because I'm using the official Twitch soundtrack thing. I think there is. Well, that's the other thing I got to do is I got to get the closed caption thing going. I'll work on that on the weekend. Monday's stream should be super exciting. I'll have the closed captions working. I'll have a new mic, and we'll be doing the build agreeably in a day. Ooh. I'm not setting up multiple points of failure at all. It'll be fine. Okay. There we've got our... This is not fun. This is not my favorite thing to do. It always goes weird. So forgive me if I get a little quiet, but I really got to kind of concentrate. Okay. The first stitch is always the most scary. Get in there, you. It helps if I talk to it like Frankie. They're scared of Frankie. He's a troll. I think about Frankie's kind of the anti-Oscar. He's Frankie. He sounds grumpy, but he's really heart of gold. And the friendly troll. Just don't tell anybody. This is not going terribly. Zep and Pi, I think you're good luck. You gotta be around every time I sew something. I'll message you. Sorry, I said I was using a ladder stitch here. I'm not. I'm using a whip stitch. If you don't know about stitches, then that doesn't mean anything to you, but it's good to know. I'm sure on the YouTube archive, there's some people who are learning to build puppets that will find this, informative. So now that I've got, let me show here, I'm up almost halfway through the arm, so I'm just going to take the pin out because it's not really doing anything. It's not holding it in place anymore. We've got stitches there to hold it in place. So I'd rather not poke myself again. I've been remarkably lucky in not poking myself with pins or needles yet. It's going to happen Monday. Come on, now it's not behaving. I'll send Piewackets to get you. They'll set you straight. Ooh. Hang on. Small emergency. There we go. It's okay. Kind of knotted there a little bit. Thread knots. It happens. That's the other thing. Like, things are going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. And part of the process of being a maker is dealing with that. Like, just being able to roll with it and to compensate and then fix it. You're not going to be perfect. But if you can accept your imperfections and work with them, and more importantly, fix what's broken, then you'll be good at it. This looks like the most fiddly thing you've done so far, definitely. In fact, this may be the most fiddly thing of all that I do in any puppet build. This is actually similar to how Kermit's arms are attached, FYI. I mean, as far as we know. This is how when people who build replica Kermits, this is how they do it. Nobody knows how the Henson shop actually does it, but trade secrets. Okay, I've almost got to the end. I want to kind of mask the corner there, so I'm going to go a little bit further. But then I'm going to go back the other way and kind of go halfway and then cut and tie it off. Or tie it off and then cut. Just so you don't sort of see thread ends when the puppet is in normal operation. Anything interesting on Twitter? Not really. I follow William Gibson and Chuck Wendig, authors, if you don't know, but they are obsessive retweeters of current affairs. And so I wouldn't know anything about what's going on in the world if it weren't for William Gibson and Chuck Wendig. Intentionally. Okay, so I've gone back, and I'm back about halfway. I'm doing bigger stitches here just because that's fine. This is just a little bit of insurance. So I'm going to loop it through, tie it off, and then snip the thread. Do a couple of knots just to be extra safe. Are they secretive about all puppets? Or they're secretive about all puppets. Secretive isn't really the thing. It's that your patterns as a puppet maker, your patterns are like the thing you work for the most, right? It's also like this is your original design. This is the thing that is intensely personal. And of course, when you're working on something like the Muppets, that character is intensely personal to the property. So, and also they're bound by NDAs and stuff like that. I mean, they're an original design. It's like if you were to work on this Flintstones or something, how exactly Fred Flintstone is drawn is a copyrighted thing, right? So you just don't. It's not even like when I was talking the other time last stream about that interview with the old shop builders from the Henson Creature Shop. It's not really secrets. Like they're not going, "Oh, I can't tell you that." It's just that it's not talked about unless they're asked, right? But if you were to go up to Carolee Wilcox or Bonnie Erickson and go, "So how's Kermit made?" She would probably go, "Oh, it's like this," right? So it's not really like secret so much as it's just not really talked about. But again, also because they're copyrighted characters, you don't say, "If you would like to make a Kermit at home, here's precisely how you do it," which is a shame because boy, I would love to know. They've got their trade secrets for sure. But it's not quite like, keeping secrets. It's just, you just don't. So there we go. There's one arm attached. Now what I'm also going to do when the other one's on, I'm going to blend these seams a little bit. Is there a Kermit in a museum you can see? Yes, actually there's several. The one closest to me, I live in Toronto, is in the Museum of the Moving Image in New York City, Queens. They have a very early Kermit, not Sam and Friends era, it's the 70s era Kermit, but they've got one there. There's a couple in the Smithsonian. There's one or two in the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta. And I know there's more in museums around the world, but yeah, you can go and see for real Kermits and Fozzies and Miss Piggies, and a lot of them, they've all had to be museum stabilized. So even if they didn't need restoration, here's more background stuff. The kind of foam that you use for professional puppets is called Scott foam or reticulated foam, and all foam breaks down over time. It's photosensitive. Sometimes it takes years and years and years, but it's still, over time, it will break down. If you have a museum exhibit, you need to have material that is stable, right? That's not going to break down over time. So all of the puppets that you see in museums have been gone through a restoration process whereby archival material is used. So they will have to replicate the entire thing, or at least the entire internal structure of the foam, in a stable kind of material that's usually not foam. It's usually like solid. So it's a bit of a letdown to know this, because you then go to the museum and you go, oh, there's the Kermit, right? There he is. And kinda. it's the real truth. It is a Kermit that has been on Jim Henson's arm, but it's also had to go through this kind of stabilization process. They use, you'll notice in museums, there's hardly ever you'll see the arm rods attached to them, because again, the arm rods are attached to the Scott foam, and the Scott foam degrades, so they take all that stuff out, and they include this I can't remember what it's called walk line or something. That's like it's used for construction, for gardening tools and stuff. It's this really neat it's like a line of beads inside a plastic casing, and you can kind of like move it and turn it, and it's like an armature. So you can put that in a puppet arm and then kind of move it and lock it in place. And that's what they use for like limbs and stuff like that. And it's archival. Yeah, they've all been stuffed. They all have. It's like taxidermy, exactly. They've had to taxidermy the puppets, and that's just a reality. Like, that's just how it goes. There's somebody, I want to say, on, I don't Facebook that often. I used to look in on, there's a Muppet Replica Facebook group, and somebody who's on there has actually worked in museums and worked on restoring Kermits and things, and his stories are fascinating. It's kind of worth it just for that. But they do, the goal is to have a stable, object to put in the museum, but they do make every attempt to make them look as they looked authentically, right? So it's a trade-off. It always is. All museum stuff is like that, though. There's always a trade-off between, having the original object and making it so it will last for in the museum, because stuff rots. I mean, time passes and things degrade, so you have to stabilize them. No problem, Pi. I'm happy to babble like that. Okay, so there's one arm. We got to put the other one on. So basically, I got to do exactly what I did before and get it nice and even. That's got to go a bit higher. How's that? I want to say a bit higher. I'm probably making a mistake here, but why not? So there we go. Oh, you can't see that because it's there. So I got to lift it up, put a pin in the bottom. And take out the pin on the top. And now we are ready to sew the other arm. Actually, I have to take a quick bio break. So I'm going to put up the BRB screen. I will be right back. I'll just be gone for a minute. So I will be right back. And we're back. What is it they call it in Star Wars? There's an official, the refresher. I love the fact that there's an official word for the bathroom in Star Wars now. It's the refresher. It's such a polite way of putting it. That's what Mando says at some point. I think it's in the first episode, actually. Gotta use the refresher. Have our chill beats stopped again? Our chill beats have stopped again. There we go. What's going on with the chill beats? The ones with their eyes half closed made me laugh. Are you talking about the Greeblies? Sorry, I don't get the reference, Pie. If so, I can show you. I actually still have one. Hasn't been bought yet. Hopefully soon. Okay. No way. Have a line halfway. That makes them look as if they are exasperated. Yeah. That line, I'm going to be showing that on stream at some point because I will make a deluxe Greebly and they have the eyelids. Those eyelids, let me tell you, you think this is finicky? Oh, there's no good way. Putting an eyelid, like a fleece eyelid with that line on it, on like a half dome, like a hemisphere, or a flat eye or something, that's super easy. Putting that on a sphere, so like a ping pong ball, there's no good way to do it. I have yet to find a consistently reliable good way to make a nice smooth, thing. The way I do it, actually there is a way, and it's nearly impossible for me. The way I do it is I take ping pong balls. So I use 40 millimeter ping pong balls, which is our standard width. And I cut them in half. And then I cover them in glue, and I cover the fabric in glue, and then I stretch the fabric over them. And so I have these kind of shells. But there's two problems. When you cut a ping pong ball in half, it's really tricky. First of all, because the plastic is very, very thin. There is a center line to follow, but it's hard to see, and it's almost impossible if you're using shears or something to get a perfectly clean line exactly halfway across the ball. You can't use a power tool like a Dremel because the fabric is so thin and light, it just melts. So you have to sort of snip it. Or use like an X-Acto knife and then cut your finger off, right? Which is not advisable. So the best way I found is to just take some shears and try and carefully trim, so you end up with two domes that are different size, and then you kind of have to trim down and try and make them the same size, but you never can get it exactly right. So add on to that the fact that the hemisphere that you now have is the same diameter as the ping pong ball it's going on. So it doesn't slide over it and sit nicely. It kind of sits on top of it, and you kind of have to force it down. So that's not great. And then, so one of the ways around this is you make a shell. Either use a smaller ping pong ball for the eyeball, which you can get, but they're not great quality because they're beer pong balls. They're 38 millimeters, which is perfect. If you put a shell made from a 40 millimeter ping pong ball over a 38 millimeter ping pong ball, it's perfect and it looks great. Unfortunately, that means the actual eyes are a little bit smaller, and I don't like it as much. And also the quality isn't as good, so sometimes you'll have to paint them to make them look okay, and that's a whole other, step. The other way is to use a vacuum form machine to make solid, what are called bucks. It's the thing that goes inside a vacuum form machine to make to mold the shape around, and then you use thermoplastic and you make vacuum form shells, which is doable. I even have a vacuum form machine. The problem is it's hard for me, at least right now during COVID, to get the thermoplastic styrene sheets that you need to go in the vacuum form machine. There's a whole thing, and I know at the end it's just a simple eyelid over a sphere, and it doesn't seem like it should be that much complication, but it is. But we will get to that. I'm gonna do a Deluxe Greebly on stream at some point, and we will get to the spherical eyelid things. But that line, that black line, is made, at least in my case, out of sticky back craft foam, which is a lovely material, and I like it a lot. And we will explore the properties of sticky back craft foam at some point. But right now, we gotta get this guy's arm sewn on there. I did it again, gendered language. Kevin, it's 2020. Really? I don't mean for it to be gendered. And in my head, it isn't even gendered. It's like a term of affection. Let the chill beats wash over you. This, thankfully, is the kind of longest, most time-consuming part of this. After this, we're in good shape to just finish it off. So, how long are we going? 2.5 hours. I think that might be the longest stream so far. Not bad. They're going to get longer, I guarantee you, as I get more, kind of in the zone, and more used to it. Like I said before, the plan is to just do my job, which is make puppets. But it's also nice to have someone to hang out with while I do that. One of the funny side effects. Excellent. Thank you. One of the side effects of me doing this, though, because, I can't, the soundtrack has to be legal, as it were. I'm actually down on a couple podcast episodes, some podcasts that I listen to regularly because I usually put on a podcast while I'm hand sewing. So, one of them being the aforementioned No Such Thing as a Fish. I have been in the habit of watching since the Giant Bomb. I'm sure somebody out there probably knows who Giant Bomb is. They're only one of the biggest gaming websites in the world. I do watch the Beastcast occasionally, and I like watching it now that they're streaming everything live. It's nice because Thursdays in my world are laundry days, and I usually get up really early, even earlier than normal, to do the laundry so I can get in and out of the laundry room without seeing another human being. It's COVID. That's just responsible. So I'm usually pretty tired, midway through Thursday, and to be able to just put on a funny podcast and sit and hand sew it's nice and relaxing, But that's one thing I got to start planning on is what puppets am I going to build on stream versus off stream, right? Or I'll just stream every day and make you sick of me. Okay, we're almost done here. Just tying this off, and it is, of course, now being uncooperative. Did I just see a frame drop? I'm not, I'm focusing on what I'm doing, so I'm not watching the playback as intensely as I otherwise would. If you did, I sure didn't. Good. I'm paranoid about it now. It was really bad the past 2 streams. And like I said, I streamed a lot before, so, I know stuff about how streaming works. And I've never had it this bad before. It's weird. Now, this is a new PC. It's also a very powerful PC, so it should be fine, but apparently it's not. OBS can be finicky like that, though, so you never know. All right. Here's arms. They're not quite as bouncy as they are. You gotta kind of, work them and massage them, but there we go. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this right now, is I'm going to blend, I'm going to pick the fibers and blend this arm together a little bit. It looks a lot nicer. Right now you can see it's kind of like you can see a stitch here. You can see, I have problems streaming Twitch, so it's a plugin that adds buffer. I rarely see drop frames. I should look into that. Although I think this might be fine. I'll look at the playback, but this should be, I think we've solved the problem. I had to do a lot of tweaking. But like I said, I think the problem was as I was recording, and it was saving out to a mechanical hard drive, and every time it would save, that's when the frame drops would happen. So that's my working theory. But all I'm doing is I'm taking a pin and I'm kind of pulling the fibers out and blending them together. No, this is not on camera as nicely as it could be, but gotta cope with it. And this just gives it a softer line. It's still going to be a line, but it gives it a softer line. It's not quite as intrusive. Now, if you can see that, it's a little bit nicer. I'll work on this a bit more before I put it up on the store. But in the interest of moving forward, we'll just do a little bit of this to demonstrate, and then we'll move on. I do care quite a lot about the quality of the stuff that I sell, because it should. My goal is to make stuff that when you see it for the first time, you kind of go, oh, there's an immediate kind of gut reaction of, oh wow. And in order to do that, you got to take your time and do a good job. The top right camera view, he looks a lot brighter green. Yes. So I'm using a different fleece here. This is the see there. That guy was the fleece that was called Lizard, and that closely matches Kermit from the 70s. This fleece is, oh, you mean on the 2 cameras? Yes, you are quite correct. It looks, just from looking in real life, it looks like the top-down camera is more accurate. The sort of side view camera here, this one, I can't even remember how I set it up, but I think I got a bunch of auto color settings. So it's just a consumer grade camcorder. It's kind of crappy. I'll probably replace it at some point. But it's all the consumer grade stuff tries to like punch up the color. So the color is just a little too saturated in this camera. I'll take the time and color correct stuff later. But for now, I think that the top down, the GoPro is probably closer. It looks, to me, from eye to screen, it looks a bit more accurate in the GoPro. So this view is more accurate than this view. it's not quite as neon green as this in real life. So what now? Let's see. Now we got some decisions to make. Actually, we don't have a decision to make just yet. I have a choice now. We can. So now we're going to do the features. So that's the eyes, the hair, and the inside of the mouth. I have, as I showed before, a tongue and a uvula already cut for the inside of the mouth. Let's do that. Why not? Oh, actually, you know what? I know why not. Because I got to warm up the glue gun. This is the one place in this puppet that hot glue is used, and it's to glue the tongue in. Just because it's quick and it doesn't need to be anything else. But the nice thing about hot glue in this instance is if you only put a little dab in the middle, you can, before the hot glue sets, you can move it around so you can kind of center it before the glue sets. If I was using contact cement, of course, I would have to put some on both surfaces, so I would have to get it way more precise. This gives me a little bit of wiggle room. But I got to plug it in over here and let that heat up, and that's going to take a few minutes. So we won't do the tongue just yet. Let me just get the glue stick, make sure that I've got them handy. Here's another shop tip. If you are using hot melt, not hot glue, it's technically called hot melt. If you are using hot glue for anything, not all hot glue sticks are created equal. Most of the guns are pretty much the same. This one has a nice narrow nozzle, so I can get into little spaces easier, but most of the guns are pretty much the same. They're just a heating element in a tube. But the glue itself is different. If you get like the real cheap stuff, like the bulk dollar store type stuff, it'll do okay, but it'll break easily once it sets because it's really just plastic. I have found, and I am not being paid, this is not a paid endorsement, I have found that Gorilla Brand glue sticks work far better than the sort of cheap bulk stuff. There's something, they put something in this that even on non-porous surfaces, which, for hot glue, you need some texture. You need something for the glue to grab onto. That's true of all glues, but it's particularly true of hot glue. They put something in this that even on non-porous surfaces, this stuff will stick. It's sponsorship. Yeah, Gorilla Glue. You know what? Puppet Pelts. If you ever need if I ever sponsor anybody, I'm your boy. Come on. I'll take that sweet Puppet Pelt sponsorship. As I said before, Puppet Pelts is one of the main suppliers of puppet, like fleece and fur and stuff like that. They're fantastic. I love them. But anyway, yeah, Gorilla Brand hot glue works way better than like the cheap no-name stuff. So spend a couple of bucks, get yourself the good hot glue. If you got to use hot glue, and as I said before, I have problems with hot glue. I got a lot of problems with hot glue, but if you're going to use it, use the good stuff. So that means that while we're waiting for the glue gun to heat up, the other things are, of course, the eyes and the hair. I got to prep the hair, so let's do the hair next. Now, the question arises, what color should we do the hair? This is my bag of hair. Come on, camera, focus. There you go, good boy. This is a bag of hair. Now, as you see in the picture, the first green Smol I did had purple hair, because my favorite color combination is green and purple. So I've got lots of purple. This is ostrich fringe, by the way, in case you didn't know. All the Muppets have, well, not all the Muppets, but many Muppets have this great floaty, like just as you move it just moves. You've seen this, you know what this is. This is, well, you don't know what it is, but you've seen puppets with this stuff on it. Like all the Fraggles have hair made out of this. This is ostrich fringe. I believe it's basically the down from the wings. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure. Because, ostrich feathers are huge. Ostriches are huge birds. And this is just the soft, downy stuff that's kind of underneath. But it is an animal product. That is something to be aware of. These aren't artificial. These are actually came from an animal. So that's something to be aware of if you're vegan or something. Something you should know. So I don't want to use purple again because I try to make each puppet as unique as possible. So what else would be good? What else have I got? I've got a lighter purple. Now, I'm about to do a puppet soon that has a lot of pink in it. And I should have somewhere a really great bright pink fuchsia. Or maybe none. I have it somewhere. Oh, here we go. Here, this stuff is fantastic. This is a different supplier. It's currently taped to yellow, but look at this. That's that's some pink. But I'm thinking maybe blue. I'm thinking blue. I got a really nice kind of aqua blue here. That's quite nice. It's floating around. Let's do that. We'll do blue. Green and blue are a nice color combination. So for the Smols, let's go to this camera here. The hot glue is starting to get warmed up there. So the way this stuff is, the reason I like this rather than getting because sometimes you can get the big feather dusters and just to strip the feathers off of them. But this stuff comes, as you see, sewn on this ribbon sort of backing. That's a real convenience. So when I'm making a hair for a Greebly or a Smol, you just take this and you just kind of roll it on itself. And it creates this bundle. Right? Like that. And it moves really good. So for a Smol, all the Smol has is that little tuft on the top. I could make more. I could make a Smol with a big mop of hair, but for right now, I'm going to keep these the same with just a little tuft on the top. So we don't need that much. So I'm going to roll it up until I get a bundle that feels about right. 12:42. Good heavens. The day is flying by. We're actually getting real close to done, so that's good. Let's see. No, I think I want more than that. I personally, I find with the ostrich fringe, you can make a kind of meh puppet a fantastic puppet just by adding more fringe. It's just more hair. Everybody loves this stuff. It moves so nicely and it adds so much personality. But the tricky part there is, so the bottom, as I roll it up, this bundle is getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and that will affect what we do next. So you don't want to make it too thick. So I'm just going to snip right about there. And there's our little bundle of hair for the top. Put this away. One day I'll turn the camera on the other corner of the shop and you'll see places if you've ever seen pictures of when they discovered Tutankhamun's tomb, and it was just like a hoarder. It was just tons and tons of stuff thrown in, piled on top of one another. That's kind of what the corners of this shop look like. If King Tut was a puppet builder, this would be his tomb. So the first thing I want to do, now that I've got this is a little thick here. I want to trim halfway, because the way this is done is this is really just a ribbon folded in half, and then there's a machine stitch along this line here. You can't really see that on camera too well, but I don't want to sew into that stitch because that stitch is what's keeping the hair attached to the ribbon. But I do want to cut away a lot of this ribbon. So I'm just going to carefully go up the middle. Some ostrich trimming music, please. There we go. So, one thing I do, I used to try and do this with hot glue, and after the 3rd degree burns, I decided I should figure out another way. So I'm going to use some contact cement, and I'm just going to go along this line and put some contact cement in there, and then roll it up, and then the contact cement will hold it together. Got to close the door again for that. Thankfully, Jimmy is crashed out on the bed with our other cat, Dax. So he doesn't seem to be too worried about interrupting today. There will be Jimmy days and no Jimmy days. So, contact cement and an applicator. Do. So now this is going to get a little tricky in that I'm going to have to use the hairdryer here, but I'm also going to have to hold the hairdryer kind of top down onto the table, and that's going to blow everything off the table. So let me try and take off the things that are potentially have some lift to them. Okay, and just like before, you don't need a lot, just a little bit. And I'm going to go along and just paint on some glue down the length of this. It doesn't have to be even or anything because this is just going to get rolled up. So it just has to hold the roll together. Okay, so now we're going to try and use the hairdryer. This might get funny. You may see things blown off the table. I'm not sure. I'll try and do it over in the corner here. But the can there is kind of a windbreak. That's not chaos, that's a slight disturbance. I'll show you chaos, pal. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. We actually don't need we will need the glue in a bit, so let's keep it here. But now, very carefully, I'm try and roll this up as tiny a roll as I can get. Don't want a lot of space between the kind of folds, because we're going to make a hole in the top of the head and punch this down into it. And that's where the fire comes into it. Yeah, you absolutely could have been chaos, but hey, I'm a professional. Chaos is only by special order. You gotta pay extra for the chaos. All right, rolled up, and as we have established, pressure is what contact cement needs, so I'm squeezing that together. Give it a good old pinch. And there we go. We have a little bundle of ostrich fringe. So that's that. I'm just trying to decide what the best order of operations here should be. The glue, the hot glue is pretty much ready, so why don't we do the tongue and the uvula next? So there is the tongue and the uvula. I cut out, I have a cricket, and if you don't know what that is, it's like, it's a thing that they use in crafting a lot. It's basically, excuse me, a plotter that has like a cutting tool that you can swap in and out. It's really, really handy. But the good thing about it is you can make very precise cuts with it. So I use my cricket to cut out. This is made out of craft foam, and craft foam comes in these sort of thin sheets, and you can put it on a cricket. So I put it on a cricket and I cut out sheets of tongues. So I've got like over here, this is a bucket of tongues and uvulas. And same thing with the uvulas. This particular uvula, I actually cut out by hand because I didn't have the pattern ready, and I've actually stuck my cricket. I don't use my cricket often, so it's taking up space on the table. So I sort of shoved it under the desk here, and I didn't want to get it out to cut one uvula, because when I do when I get the cricket out, I kind of plan ahead and go, okay, I'm going to cut a sheet of tongues and a sheet of uvulas and a sheet of pupils, and I do like a whole kind of mass production thing all at once, and then I put the cricket away again. And so this one I just cut out by hand, and it actually looks okay. But I like the precision you can get on features like this, because when you see a tongue that's been hand cut, it's never quite perfect enough, and it looks a little, you know, not quite right. So what I do with the tongue is I take a marker that's a slightly darker color, and I kind of give some shading, and I do eyeball that. But I'm just going to draw like a little line down the bottom, and then I'm going to color in just a bit at the back. And this just adds a little depth. One thing I really want to do that I haven't done yet is carve tongues out of foam. Oscar the Grouch is a good example. Oscar has a carved foam tongue. It's of course tricky, because you got to get in there with scissors and just snip and snip and snip until it's smooth, and then use sandpaper to get it even smoother, and it's a whole process. But I love the way they look, and I'm going to make them eventually. I got a whole bunch of 1/4-inch reticulated foam specifically for that purpose. But one nice thing about this craft foam is it dents really easily. Like you can push on it and make a permanent sort of indentation. So I'm doing that with this little marker here. I'm pushing in and making a little divot, so the tongue actually has some 3D texture to it. In the absence of a carved foam tongue, we make a carved foam tongue. There we go. There's a little bit of something. So first thing I'm going to do is put the uvula in. This is made out of sticky back velvet. It's great. You can get this like velvet paper that it's a big sticker, basically. You just peel off the back. You can see my registration marks here for where I used this circle template and did a big circle and a little circle in the middle and joined them up. So this is great because you can just peel it off, and there's adhesive on the back of here, and you can stick it on some. Sometimes I might go and put a little bit of glue in here for safety, because over time it's just a sticker, so it might lift off, but I think we're pretty safe. Stuff like on the inside of the mouth isn't rubbing. It's not gonna undergo too many stresses, so I think we'll be okay. So again, I apologize, I'm having to do this kind of off camera, but so I'm going to open the mouth as wide as possible, and this goes on just kind of in the middle, and you want to have it dipping down to the bottom jaw a little bit. So how's that? That looks pretty good. And there we go. A couple of pieces off here. Get away. That's all right. So there's our uvula. And you see it's actually over, it actually folds a little bit. That's why I opened this up flat and then laid it in. So now we got to put our tongue in. So we're going to turn this over. little dab of hot glue. Get rid of this big wad of hot glue that's on the back here. And I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue right in the middle there. Globby mess. I hate hot glue. And carefully. And so the important thing here, you can sort of use the center line, eyeball it, make sure there's an even space between the bottom of the jaw and the tongue, and just press it in place. There we go. Not bad. See if we can. That glue sets pretty quickly, so. Let's see, we'll go up here maybe. Not bad. Not bad. My arms need work, pal. They need work. Excuse me. I'm fine, really. Okay, so, where'd that go? That's all we need the hot glue for. So let's unplug the hot glue because it's a hot thing, and therefore safety. I'm gonna put this over here. It's not in the way. So kids, his arms are a little, I gotta blend them a little bit more. You probably can't see it on camera, but I might even sew it again because they're a little, they hang off a little too loosely. That's the kind of thing that you just kind of make that call. It's the kind, I do this all the time. It's the kind of thing that like probably the clients, the audience, they don't see it. They don't even, but I'm picky. So I gotta make it as perfect as I can. All right, kids, it's time to play with fire. Before we do that, though, we gotta mark out. Oh, we're marking out. I'm going to mark with the invisible pen. Let's see if we can do it this way. I will do it this way, but I do have to look at it head on. So I'm going to mark out where the eyes are going to go and where the hair is going to go. So I got to look at them head on to do that, unfortunately. So I know it's off camera, but. And this, I just eyeball. Get it? Eyeball? These are the jokes. This is why you're here. And for the Smols, I like to make the eyes a little bit close together. They seem cuter in relation to the width of the mouth. So here's the marks for the eyes. And for the hair, you kind of want it at the crest of the head, but I'm going to offset it a little bit because I don't want to break the seam. So I always put it to the left or right of the seam, just. So there's the marks. There's his eyes and the hole for his hair. Now, how do we make those holes, you ask? This is how we make those holes. Great, I can't find it now. There we go. Gosh, that piece of wire looks like it's been heated. What is that a torch? What is that? It's a torch. We are going to take this. This is a piece of a welding rod. This is what I use to make arm rods out of. It's a copper-clad steel welding rod. And I'm going to put it nice and firm in these vice grips. So this isn't going to come loose. And I'm going to take this torch. This is a culinary torch. This is the kind of thing that you use to make like creme brulees and caramelized steaks and stuff like that. This is a butane torch. This is dangerous. Okay, I got to be Mr. Safety, but as you might suppose, a thing that makes a very hot flame. This is hotter than a lighter. It's not as hot as like an acetylene welding torch or something like that, but it's still freaking hot and dangerous, and will make a flame. Depending on how this thing is set, that flame can come out like this far. So you got to be aware of that. Don't turn it on when you're near anything flammable like your puppet. But what I'm going to do is heat up the end of this wire, and then we're going to melt a hole through where our marks are. The thing about this fleece and this foam is they're all like a polymer. They're all synthetic. They're basically plastic. So when you put a really hot wire through it, it cauterizes. It melts the plastic basically, and you can get a nice clean hole through whatever you want easily. So that's how we're going to make the holes. The other way to make the holes is to take like an awl and like punch a hole through it. That can get messy. You put a lot of distress on the fabric when you do that. And it's hard to get it to be a nice perfect hole. This will make a nice perfect cauterized hole. So again, this is tricky and dangerous and something that I probably am not going to get a good camera angle on. I apologize. It's also going to create some really accurate smoke. Again, good ventilation is important. But fire good. And so the end isn't going to get like glowing hot or anything, but you gotta get it on. And some of the sparks that are kind of coming off of it are the remnants of the previous victim being burned off. So I got that nice and hot, and I'm just going to go in. Boom. And there's that smoke. Oh, that stuff is foul. If you were to set your mattress on fire, this is what it would smell like. Don't do that. But anyway, as you can see, that's a nice, clean, perfect hole. Also, be aware you're holding a very hot wire. Don't just like put this down somewhere. Be aware of where it is. In fact, what I should have done, it'll be fine. But if you want extra safety, keep like a cup of cold water nearby and just put this in the cold water as soon as you're done with it. That would be what a smart person would do, but unfortunately, you're stuck with me. So here we go. Heating up the wire again. This will cool relatively quickly, but it will stay hot for quite a while, so be aware of that. And okay, the thing is, like, there's no resistance. This just goes in like it's not even there, and it's good. You do get some burning, like you get some burn marks around it. You can blend that out with a pin. And finally, now this hole we're gonna have to make a bit bigger because that bundle of hair has to go in it. So I'm gonna make a slightly bigger hole. And hope that it's big enough. Slightly bigger hole. So I'm going to put this down here, remembering that it's there, let it cool off, and I'm going to turn off the torch, or turn down the flame all the way, and then put it back in its safekeeping place, which is over here. So there we go. Fire. Camera, come on. There you go. Exciting. So that leaves us 3 things left to do. Put in the eyes and put in the hair. I'm going to start with the. Let's start with the eyes. Why not? The hair is kind of fiddly, so let's have that be the last thing. Excuse me while I look for my eyes. These are just doll eyes. I love these things. You can get these from like hobby stores. I got these on Amazon, but there's lots of places you can get these. And they have these little washer backings. But they come in all kinds of sizes. I use the biggest ones that at least came in this batch, for the Smols, and they're just little domes, and they have like a peg on the back of them, and then this sort of safety backing goes on there. The nice thing about this design in relationship to these eyes is, although we are taking, so when you're making a puppet and you're attaching eyes and you want the eyes to be really strong and fixed, I mean, a lot of times, yeah, you can just take something and glue it right onto the surface. But a lot of times that's not super strong. So you'd like to have some kind of structure in there to hold the eye in place. And in this case, it's a peg system. Now, when you're putting features on a puppet, you got to remember that there's a human hand that goes inside here. So you don't ever want to have stuff poking in, because that's then going to poke into the hand of the performer. You always want to have stuff poking out, right? So you put something inside that pokes out, and then you mount whatever it is that you're mounting on it. That's how the Greebly eyes are done. There's a back plate and then a couple of screws that come up through. But in this case, it's fine because of where the eyes sit in relation to the hand. I should show it like this. These just barely touches the performer's hand. And also, these are safety backs, so this kind of smooths out and rounds out the ends of the peg. So this is fine in this case, but in other cases, I would do this differently. But in this case, I'm not. Now, the super nice thing about this is, you get the other eye here. And I get these backings ready. Because they have these locking backs, these little washer thingies, you can push the eye in really strong, and actually it creates like a dip in the foam, and it compresses the foam, so it makes like a little eye socket. So you can press these down into the puppet, and it creates this really nice little sort of contour around the eye. So we're gonna stick that in, and you can see, there we go. But now I'm gonna take the backing, put that inside, and you just kind of gotta feel around and get it right, line it up. And now I'm pushing it onto the backing, and I'm pushing as hard as I can to get that locked, squeezing down into it. And there we go. You see how it's kind of recessed and set into the foam? That looks great. I absolutely love how that looks. Beautiful. So we'll just do that with the other eye. Oh, let me get the backing first. And did this the wrong way around with my hands. This is awkward. I'm left-handed in some things. I'm kind of ambidextrous, but I'm not ambidextrous so much as I'm bidextrous. I think that would be the right term. I do some things left-handed and some things right-handed. Hey, Jamie, how you doing? Yes, the eyes do add a lot of personality. There we go. There we go. Look at that. This eye is a little too high. So, maybe it's okay. Again, the nice thing about the Smols is, as I think Zeptek said last time, the lumpiness is good. This is some good lump. He does not look right with Frankie's voice. Stop it. There we go. Okay. So now they've got their eyes. Yes, lumpy is cute. So the very last thing is unfortunately rather annoying, but it is taking this bundle of hair and kind of punching it down into this hole. I also want to add a little touch of glue on the end there, just so when it sets, it kind of, it's all locked into place. So the first thing is to get some glue. And at this point, be very, very careful because you have a mostly finished puppet sitting here, and you don't want to like drop some glue onto it by mistake. That would be a bad mistake. So I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of glue on the kind of bottom of this. So once we get this punched down in there, this glue sets and it holds it in place. Okay, so the way I do this is you kind of set it in, and I've got this double-ended awl here, and I'm just going to kind of, again, sorry it's going to be off camera, but I'm just going to kind of take this and then poke it down in. This is how you like do hair punching. Except on a much larger scale. Yeah, man, cooperate with me. I'm live on the internet. There we go. Hey, that worked pretty well. So there we go. Now I've been punched down. I finished watching the Stream Archive Small Skin sewing video and realized you were probably streaming and hopped over. Yes, you are correct, Jamie. And also everybody, in case you didn't see this, I put the schedule up. I'm going to be streaming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, regularly. Maybe even more, but those are going to be the for sure days. So there we go. Here we go. Let's go to the puppet cam. There. Hi, I'm finished. Mostly. You gotta really clean it up. What are you doing? He needs his seams picked, and I'm gonna strengthen the arms a little bit, but mostly, there we go. Isn't he cute? I'm exceptionally cute, even with my uneven eyes. They're part of my personality. Ha. There we go. One finished Smol. So that will do it. Goal is met. We have finished one puppet on stream. This is the only puppet I've made this week. I got to get cracking on some more because we're heading into the holiday season. And people keep buying these things. I don't know. Seems to be no way of stopping them. So, so there we go. Thanks, everybody. Jamie, I'll be messaging you soon. Rock and Stone. Rock and Stone. That's not really an inside joke if you've ever played Deep Rock Galactic, which you should. It's a great game. So there we go. So next stream will be Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and we will be building an entire Greebly in one sitting. Thank you, Jamie. Good. So thanks a lot, folks. This was a lot of fun. How long did we go? 3 hours and 14 minutes. Wow. It's like work, but fun. So thanks, everyone. I'm going to head out now and get some lunch, and hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.